couple of words about me. If you don't know me, I'm CEO of Seductive Mobile. We do development of mobile and web apps for startups. And also in my own experience, I work in the startup incubators, and on an everyday basis I consult and talk to many startups all over the world. So the biggest problem I see is that most of the assumptions that lie in the core of the startup ideas are never tested, and that makes the failure of the startups very high, as it's already really high. Overall, like 98% of startup fails. And I think that conducting the interviews and tests will not save from any failures, but will improve your chances highly into building something important and good quality needed product. So we'll talk a bit about like why testing, what do you need to know before testing, then how do you physically do this test, how do you call people or arrange meetings or do the tests in the groups and so on. And finally we'll talk about the interview flow. So there are like lots of, the quality of the interview depends on many aspects, as asking right questions instead of asking like silly questions, or getting the false answers. You don't want that. So we'll talk a bit about the psychology of those conversations. So why testing? Steve Blank is the known guru in the startup community, and he's one of the ideologists of the seamless startup guide, customer development on how to do this thing the most efficiently. And he puts like two axioms of his are like that: first of all, no business plan survives the first contact with the customer, and that's something I also experienced. I will tell a bit about later. And he also has the motto that get out of the building. So he's the strongly supporting the idea of talking to the customers even before you started to do the product, and all the way down to the development, launch, and afterwards. So I here ground most of my ideas on the ideology of customer development and Steve Blank. And also my own experience for that, because like 6 years ago when we started our company with a bunch of friends, we had a product called Lookbook, so we wanted to do a full product. Let me just quickly check if there are any problems with the chat. Okay, seems nothing. Good. And what happened is we had this idea for the retail shops of clothes, for our apparel shops, that we can put the interactive kiosks, sensor screens in there with the camera, so you can create a lookbook of your own. You can create lots of snapshots of you wearing different clothes. Afterwards you can allow your friends to rate it, to comment it, to select the best looks. So you make the most of your money selecting the look that passes you the best, and depending on the feedback from your peers. Also, that would allow for the shops that have many that frequently change their items to present some kind of catalog of what do they have in the shop. So in many ways it looked like an interesting idea, and we tried to launch it here in Ukraine. So there were like a couple of clothes things all over the world, mostly in the like as one piece product, just a showcase, no big businesses, and we tried to do the business of it. And what we came to understand is that usually when I had the first, I went to LinkedIn and I tried to sell directly this product to a couple of managers of those apparel shops, and I came to one of the biggest chains in the Ukraine, like top 5 chain marketing manager, and I've talked to him, and he said that, well, basically they do not invest in their existing shops. So they can invest when they open a new shop into the, building it, put in like interior design and so on. But afterwards, they keep the expenditures low to make the margin the highest, and our investment was considered too high for them. Like they tried really simple advertising solution and weren't ready for the SMM and advanced digital products. So that's how we kind of felt like that we're doing the wrong thing, and our customers weren't ready to buy it. They're not like looking for that, and they considered it interesting, but they didn't see the value for them and weren't ready operationally for that. And but the first talk made us switch to the new strategy. So the same person I've talked to afterwards helped us to get the orders for the other products, and that that have impacted career dramatically. So I'm very glad that I've talked to him at that same moment. And the next story is from pretty recent practice. So we were thinking about expanding our marketing efforts, and we wanted to create some content product, and we created the idea of the product manager playbook. So we wanted to talk to product managers and gather other product managers to spread and share their experience, and build the knowledge around that. And as I already knew about the customer development before building it, I made a test. So I've made a Google form and I've shared it through my peers, and there are many product managers across my networks, and I've asked them what are your how many years are you a product manager at all? How many years do you work as a product manager? Do you feel that you have gap in the marketing knowledge, development knowledge, analytical knowledge, and so on? If you were what are you reading now? Where are you learning the product manager skills now? Why are you doing that? Are you doing that for the immediate need? So, for example, you need to do something, you read and you act based on that, or are you learning for the near future, or are you just curious? And what I found is that most of the answers were from senior managers, and basically they had no immediate need for the knowledge. So the people who were most experienced were looking just curious about possibilities for their maybe next job or next big project. So while I considered that some of the knowledge was pretty urgent to know and to implement right now, the idea between most of the managers was other. Then they didn't look into implementing this knowledge, and they were not looking for something immediate. So that also gave lots of interesting experience and ideas about who is our audience and what's about their needs. And finally, there's the book called Running Lean or Lean Startup, and the author is telling about his journey on the building the products. And one of the products they were building was the it was you have so many messaging applications, and there was the meta messenger that connected all your messages into one application, so you can chat with people, for example, with WhatsApp, Viber, Facebook Messenger, all in one application, not switching between different applications. And it seemed like a killer idea, he thought that he asked young people about how many messages do they use, and they told something like 6, 7, up to 10 different messages. And he thought that that should make it a big problem to use 10 messages at once. But after some tests, they've done they've asked like around 10 people weekly or monthly to come and test their version of the product and to provide their feedback. And they found out that basically for the young people, they use different messages for different purposes. So, for example, there could be on Messenger, there's more like for work purposes, the other for the like closed community friends, the one for grouping, and they all have their like own flavor and their own needs in the different applications. And after all, they don't want to mix it into one application. So those are the stories that support the idea that most of the times when we try to build a new product, we always talk to one person, like ourselves, and think that it's pretty logical to act like we see, and our ideas are pretty right. But after all, we deal with people, and those people, they can give us lots of different perspectives we never thought about the product. So just a quick overview, of this journey of the like search for a validated business model. In the classical, customer development, there are like 4 steps. The first is customer discovery, second is customer validation, third is customer creation, basically selling, and then the company building. So in the end, you want to build a company after all is already done. Then like what company type do you need, how do you allocate the percentages and so on. But like for our sake, for the sake of this webinar, we'll focus on 2 main steps, which is customer discovery, and mostly it's about understanding customers better and their problems and their needs, finding the better needs to solve, and then validating it with the business model aspect. Like where do they look for this product, what can be the price for this product, and so on. So, but first of all, we should totally test the problem, and its fit to the customer. How many customers do have this problem? How do they think about the problem? Do they consider it as a problem? So we mostly do not talk about the product at this stage. And afterwards, when we really understand that and it's confirmed by many people, and we are sure about this, then we can pitch them with our product vision and check if it solved their problem. So the other angle to look at it, as like it's more like a infographics, and this is more like a data analysis and step analysis. So for example, in this case, we have like 2 customer segments to test. So this is like a B2B product, and we also have marketing agencies and trade centers that can also use our product, and we have different value propositions for them. And we like had the stuff when we confirmed the problem, like 7 interviewed, most of them they said yes, or like 1 interview is not enough, but okay, maybe we got some information here. Then we define what would be our MVP, because not always MVP is a application, it's something that you can launch and see if it's working or not. So for Dropbox at once it was a video, not the final product. Then we confirm that, we see if we can do the first sale, then we test the different sales channels, because there could be like several test channels. This channel works, this doesn't, and you have like most of this is green, which is good. Usually you have more of red, because like there are many false routes where you end up with nothing. So and it's good because you want to test what's not working as well as what's working. You try to go through the priorities, but if it would be so easy, and the solution was found pretty quickly, then there would be no challenge. There would be lots of people doing something like you. So the more declines you get, possibly the more interesting would be the solution when you find it. And talking to the customer, for me at least, is better than not talking in these ways. Like, first of all, you're getting faster to the things, right? So most of the time, like in many times, the founders, when they have their when something stop them, when they have the rejection, something, they tend to quit and start something new. And well, that's their like process of finding what works. And sometimes it happens after year or months of work. And if you get like this methodology, will allow you to get faster to the things that work. So, and it will save time of your life, and you'll get faster to your ideal result. Then your overall emotional feeling, as entrepreneurship is the thing that doesn't go easy usually. You always have your concerns, and you again get lots of rejection. Whenever you can find something that's approved, even if it's just a hypothesis or a belief, if you have a fact, it would be way easier to do the next steps when you have something rigid, solid, and it will allow you also to get investors and the team to believe in you. And also talking to the people, most of all, like even if you just talk to the even if you don't have the intention at the time of talking, usually it will have you to do the sales afterwards, because person knows you and has some already relationships with you, and you understand them. In those ways, it would be easier for make a sale, even if it's sale, if you're selling not the product but the company, for the investor. In many ways, the more relationships you do, and the more you talk about the company and ask the feedback, the easier for you would be to do the next steps. You'll have your audience already. But of course, there are some challenges. As said, lots of people avoid this methodology, even if they're like, I think the market research is a known thing for like years now, but still not many people, not many starting entrepreneurs do them properly or do them at all, because, well, first of all, it's not fun to to find and poke people and talk to them. It's hard to find them. It's you need to involve them into talking with you, and it's like the usual thing is like it's a waste of time in the vision of the at this stage. I better do a product instead of talking to the customers. I'll see what I do. I'll see the result faster than if I just spend some time talking. So that's one of the challenges into doing that. There's no desire to do that, and second of all, like the involvement of the people. You need to interest them into talking to you, either by presenting some interesting information, by providing the early access, by paying them sometimes, by giving them perks. So anyway, you need to involve them, and it also takes your effort. And the best of it is that the more you talk to the customer, the more you hear the ideas that go strongly against your vision, right? So they will tell you all your competitors, even if you don't consider them as competitors, but they consider them. They will tell that there's no such problem, or the problem is formed by other thing, and or what you presented as a product is not solving or is not ideal enough for them. So basically, you'll hear a lot of let's say unpositive feedback, right? So positive feedback will reinforce your mood, but there would be lots of negative or neutral or other feedback that won't help you. So that is the price for that. If you're ready to try it out, then let's talk on how would you do that. What are the options? So again, you don't want to test everything at once. You need to understand what are you testing. And we said that we'll focus on customer discovery, the product hypothesis, the problem hypothesis, the customer validation, the product, Afterwards, we can also talk like test the customer creation, our sales mechanics, and how they work. But most of all, it's either the problem or the product. Now you need to decide on which stage you are. If you're not sure, basically it's the problem. If you know the problem well, if you're from this field of business, for example, and you work there for many years and you know all the problems, then you basically want to, already test the product. But this is the first thing you need to decide. Then you have several forms of involvement. So the most like from on the scale from the thing that takes least of your time to the most of your time and effort. So as said, like when I didn't want to commit to lots of resources, I just used the Google Forms or any forms or any questionnaire, that you can go like to any crowded space, publish there, and to receive some feedback. Then the next one is the call, when you can also interact, when you can hear more, when you can structurally you will find more interesting insights, but it will take you to talk to the every person that will go to this interview. The standard of it is mostly personal interviews, when you can sit near the person, especially if you're showing the product. It will help you to establish the connection, to take like the device that you have the application on, and to see what's happening really, because on the Skype call you won't see much. And the final is focus groups, which are rarely used, mostly for the bigger products. They're better in the way that they enclose the group dynamics. So as we'll talk afterwards about the psychology of the interview and its questions, people are always lying, like the house said, right? So you want to put them into a situation when they discuss it in the group, so they are not confronted by you, sitting with the sad face or angry face, hearing what they say. So you want to make it more like neutral, and to put them to discuss, to support or disagree about the ideas. So this is the options, and where will you get the people to talk with you? I think that the most optimal way is the personal interviews, and the best way to find them is to go to the events, like meetups, and especially, for example, if you're doing the product in the medical field or the educational field, you can find the event that is connected to this topic, and find many specialists or people who are in this target group, and easily talk to them, because it would be way more easier to engage them if you're a real person, and if you have your time and you can present some interesting ideas. There would be better chances of taking them into the conversation. But then the next is your network, basically your social network, but you can also try to find them in the groups, like Facebook groups, or in some forums or LinkedIn. There are also some services that can be used for gathering these researches or usability testing. So you can also find the services that will provide you with people to go through your questions. You can post ads, and if the problem that you're trying to solve is interesting enough, it will get more people to help you and to participate in this. They can easily, you can get lots of people on your questionnaire, for example, interview. Also, Quora is dedicated specially for there are lots of questions and experts there. So, and it's focused on asking questions. So you can either ask questions there, or you can talk to people that commented or answered to some questions. So it's also a good way, and people are there pretty motivated to do some social work, right, as answering to questions, so it will be easier to engage them. One of the most interesting things I've seen recently is using the Amturk, the service of Amazon, where you can pay people like small amounts of money for doing easy tasks. Well, overall there are like 99 ways, and afterwards I will share the link to the article that's called 99 ways to get people to your customer. Like this is the link. I can send it afterwards to the chat, and yeah, you could, like there's lots of ideas on how you can find people to talk to you. Usually, like when I speak about that on some meetups or groups, people ask me like, so how many people you should talk to, and like you don't want to talk to thousands of people before doing anything. So I think the better question is not how many, but how frequent. And ideally, like as we do in company, we do everything in the like Scrum methodology, meaning that we have so-called sprints, being like 2 weeks periods where we assign some tasks, and afterwards we test how they perform, how the app's looking, and so on, and how good it serves the purpose. I think like, or before you build anything, you have your first idea, first hypothesis on the product, and then you start testing, and then you change it, and then you start testing again. So you want to break your work into sprints and test each sprint. And it depends, like on the if it's a B2B or B2C product. In B2C, it's easier to get people to talk to you. In B2B, it's harder because there's less people in the industry. But you can aim for something like 5+, because obviously 1 is really bad number, because you'll be strongly, affected by the appeal, by the ideas of this person, and you want to get more of a like overall market like overall view. So well, like it can be something like 5 or more people per sprint, but it depends on your ability. So you better get 4 or 3 people but each sprint, than 10 people but once half a year. So I'll aim for more frequency, so even if I can get like just 1-2 persons but review that frequently, I'd go for that and improve it afterwards. Then we'll stop my work before I find people. So that's the idea. So interviews, how would you interview people? What should I ask them when I want to, for example, understand their problems? You don't ask them like, what problems do you have? So there are a couple of tips that will help you to approach them better. And the first rule of validating the idea is do not talk about the idea. You do not want directly ask for the person, is it a good idea or not? So basically, if you pitch them with the idea and you ask them, do you like it or not, you will know the minimum of knowledge. So you can understand if they like it or not, but almost all the time it's all, they will also give you some random information, but basically they never know, they can't be sure about if it's a good idea or not. You better want to focus about knowing their behavior, know their what they do now, how painful it is for them, if they can solve their problem. So you don't want to present the idea in front of them and to listen for the applauses or something. You want to hide your your basic idea and just based on some answers understand if the given information supports it or not. And how to understand, how would you talk to people like that? There's the so-called mom test. The mom test is lies in the next situation. So you want to also understand whether the idea of you is good or not, and you want to ask your mom, But you know that if you ask her directly, she will always say like, it's a brilliant idea, go ahead, you know, you're great, and so on. So what, like, how would you talk to your mother, you know, like how would you ask her, but do not show in the process it's your idea and you contributed to this, you know, just like overall, you know, like as a general, like in general questions, like how to talk to her and not show that the idea is yours. Also, any questions that consider the future, for example, will you buy it in the future? What would you do the next year? You know, how will you like how something will grow the next year? Well, you'll always get the opinions, but the opinions is not what you're looking for. You're looking for the facts or, you know, current state of understanding. So you can try to ask them about their, like, what do they think about the future, but that won't be what they will do in the future. So asking, will they buy that? It can take you to the, like, okay, like you sell something for $100, you know, and it's fine thing, you know, and they say, yeah, I'll probably buy that. But afterwards, if you give them, you know, the invoice and ask them to buy that, they can change the decision easily. So it's not something you can rely on. Also, there's such a thing that like real self versus ideal self. So how we act and how we think, like who we think we are two different things. You know, if people try to get closer to their ideals, you know, for example, like always be honest, you know. So for example, if the person is telling you that I always am honest, that's a so-called generalization. So he says always or never, and this always and never are the ideal things, you know. It's not how you act or somebody acts really, you know, like at some moment you can be not honest or you cannot do something, you know. So you better want to first of all know, like get rid of always, you know, like or never, and get to some facts. For example, if you always do, like what was the last time you did it, and also ask to tell it in the form of story, not in the form of statement. So you want, like in the story, that you will find many interesting insights that you can use afterwards, a lot more than, you know, just as an overall statement. So and it will get closer to the real life, like what's happening in the real life, than rather like what person thinks about it himself. If somebody tells you that your idea is good, as well as if your idea is bad, you know, in any way, don't waste time on discussing that. Just thank people for their opinion and get to the next questions, because it will do nothing, you know. Whenever it's a good idea or bad idea, on their impression, it doesn't mean anything. So you don't want to spend time on that. The other thing, like the more advanced interviewers get to that, they find the ways to support the ideas by asking the leading questions. So, for example, if they're trying, like, if they're doing the thing that's improving the, you know, the quality of something, you know, they can focus about like how the current state of quality makes you angry, you know, how angry you are. But the better is to not, you know, is to be more neutral to like on the ideas you want to get out of that. So you're not trying to prove it, you're trying to get the information. So if the person is really angry, he would say like that. But if you're trying to ask the leading questions, it's basically removing part of information from you. And this, if you get the result, that data, after all, that supports your idea, but in the end it wasn't, you know, the whole story, it will harm your business anyway. So you don't want to lead them, even if it gets you to the initial, you know, support. The other thing is, well, you can try asking why. people do something like that, or why do they think like that. Usually there is like lots of reinforcing thoughts on why is person behaving like that or thinking like that, and usually there's not just one, and usually some of the beliefs leading to the why are not rational, and the person do not understand that, so they will find how to justify why are they doing that, their mind will find the solution and the reason for doing something like that, but it's not near connected to why they're doing that originally, and there's usually lots of whys. It should be pretty clear, but if somebody, like if you talk to investors, angels, experts, and you had one radical idea that either supports you or breaks all your vision, I won't recommend to act on one opinion, so whenever how you feel about that, one opinion is not enough. So until you get like several opinions like that, the idea is not worth to act on. So if, for example, like somebody recommends you to change the feature or change the platform, and even gets you a really good argument on why to do that, and well, like why he'll purchase your product if it will be like, if it will have other features, don't go and redevelop your application with all those features just because one person said it. So usually if it's a real idea, you can try it with other people, ask them like, what do you think if they had these features, for example, and if you get the supportive information from that, you can try that out. But yeah, like you'll get more, like many radical ideas, and don't rush to act on them. So I've told you lots of formal rules, and you'll have possibly the note with all of these ideas, and you can look like this guy on the GIF from the Silicon Valley. You can be like really a form of Google Forms, that's asking people questions, and you don't want to look like a robot or a Google form. You want to build a connection with the person, so you want to hear them, you want to let them talk, in the way they are used to, not putting them into the like ABCD form. So when you talk to them, it can be hard, because if you talk to many people, it gets tricky and it's automatic. After some time, after like hundreds of interview, you just like heard all of the ideas probably, and you try to end this as soon as possible. But again, if you you should stop testing the ideas when you don't get new information. So if you're doing like interview after interview after interview, and they are not interesting for you in any way, then just stop that. But not put this in the form of statistics. Don't be too formal. And afterwards, I also provide you a link to the builder of the scripts that you can use during the interviews. Here's the examples of some questions, like how originally it would look like. You can ask about like the problem context. You can ask like, what are they doing now to solve the problem? What do you think about the competition, and so on. And if your interview is around, like for example, 15 to 30 minutes, you want to prepare some like maybe like 5 questions, and most of the time you want to let the people speak, because especially when you're discovering the problem, when you're in the first stage, you want to get into the skin of the customer. You want to know how they think. You want to know about what they do, and for that you'd rather spend time understanding them than pitching them and talking to them. So here's the link to the script. I also publish the presentation, so you can easily follow the links and review that. And yeah, one thing that we've missed on this webinar is the interactive part. So we thought to do a real demo on this webinar, but after some consideration, we understood that we need to, spend more time, more than even 1 hour, on preparations and conducting the real interviews, and we rather won't do that sloppy, and we'll dedicate additional event. We'll get like 2, 3 maybe startup ideas, and we'll follow you up with the results, probably the videos, or maybe the stats on what we found. That can be a good material for you to understand and how to conduct your interviews. So overall, it's all. I'll now switch to the chat, and if you have any question, feel free to ask in the chat.